Welcome back, everyone, to Bound by Grace podcast. I am so happy to be here this morning. It's beautiful in Hawaii. Um, I wanted to talk to you about what we will be speaking on in this episode. So, when love leads two people to consider a lifelong commitment, the path toward marriage is one of the most meaningful journeys that you could ever take. But just like any voyage worth embarking on, preparation is key, not just for the wedding day, but for every day after. In this enlightening session, we're joined by Rhonda and Al Castanon, premarital mentors and co authors of Sex is God's Idea, Expose the Lies, Embrace God's Truth, and Experience Explosive Intimacy. Their passion lies in helping couples build strong, intentional foundations. With years of experience guiding others through the emotional terrain of marriage preparation, they're here to share practical insights and powerful questions that every couple should explore before saying, I do. Whether you're engaged, seriously dating, or simply curious about what makes relationships thrive, this conversation promises heart, humor, and a whole lot of wisdom. Let's dive in and get real about love, commitment, and the conversations that create lasting connection. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're ready to go. This is great. We're very excited.
Awesome. Have you guys ever been on a podcast before?
No.
No,
I
first
didn't ask that before, so I was just wondering. Okay. So first time. That's good. I like that it's with me. It'll be fun. It'll just be just a conversation, really. So why don't you guys tell our audience a little bit about what you do and about your book?
All right. Well, yeah, it's kind of a funny thing how God works in your life. And we were talking one time, I guess, about the book came up because we were talking one time and just got into this conversation about all these relationships that we know, all these married couples. Some of them are Christians, some are non-Christians, and like how they seem to have zero intimacy. They're not sexual with each other really very much at all. It's really, bare bones kind of a thing. And we just found ourselves like continuing to have this conversation. And as it hit us one day, Al looked at me and he's like, I think that needs to be our next book. And I had been praying about it, like, Lord, I know you've told me I'm to be writing lots of books. So what's the next one? And as soon as he said it, I just knew. It was like, that's it. That's exactly it. We have to somehow tap into this. And so then we wrote, so we started writing that book. And it's from both of our perspectives, the male and female perspective, and telling the story about how, the effect that premarital counseling had on us. And when I had pain kind of crash into my life and upended everything, and all of a sudden we're dealing with something brand new. But when we got the idea for the book, within like a week, my husband's all of a sudden calling me. And this is how we got our first couple. So the Lord married these two things together. We made the commitment to write the book, and all of a sudden he started sending us couples. So
And that was a crazy story.
Amazing.
I'm a retired firefighter. And if you asked me 5 years from now that I'd be doing this, I'd be like, you got to be crazy. So it's funny how when God shows up, he shows off. So I'm at CarMax trying to sell a car. And I'm dealing with the appraiser guy, and I'm just talking to him. He was a young kid, and we're just telling him what it was like being a firefighter and being retired and what I'm doing now. And we go inside the office, we do the transaction. He cuts me a check, and he goes, I need to talk to you outside. And I'm like, I think I pissed this kid off. I don't know what's going on. So I go outside, not knowing what he wanted to talk to me about. And he's like, I've been going out with my girlfriend for 2.5 years. And she's a virgin. I haven't had sex with her, and I'm really frustrated. And I just feel like I need to talk to somebody. I felt really close to you, and I feel like I need to share this with you. And all of a sudden, the light goes on, and I'm like, oh my Lord, we're writing a book just about this type of situation. I mean, there's a lot of guys at work that I would discuss, being at the firehouse is like being at a frat club. And these guys were like, oh yeah, I haven't had sex. I only have sex on my birthday, Christmas, and my anniversary. And I'm just like, what? I'm thinking these guys are kidding around, but they're serious. So we started talking about how is this even possible, you know? So this young man, I told him that I was going to call my wife and I would love to talk to you and your girlfriend about, you know, exactly what's going on. So that's when the whole journey started with us premarital counseling. We didn't know what we were doing. Rhonda's father took a class on.
He was he went through. He was becoming a psychologist, or going through to get his degree. And so as part of that, you know, all the training and the hours and stuff that you have to do, somewhere along the line, he got
the premarital counseling,
this premarital counseling curriculum.
So he gave us the booklet, gave us the questions. And from that point on, we sent it out, been working with this young couple for a year. They ended up getting married. And then since then, without any solicitation, we probably have counseled like seven or eight young couples. And Rhonda became a minister and ended up marrying a couple of them. So this,
cool.
And this is something that we just don't ever count on it. We get phone calls. She just got a phone call just the other day about, hey, these two couples just got engaged. I'm referring you for premarital counseling. We're like, Lord, we're not soliciting, but if you call, we will answer. And
he just keeps sending people.
And then we get a hold of this podcast. I'm like, we don't know what we're doing. We're just average, you know, retired couple just doing what the Lord wants us to do. And it seems like he's providing everything. So it's been really exciting. So here we are.
Very cool. I didn't realize, I know you and I spoke before, I didn't realize that it coincided that way, that you were writing the book or felt led to write the book, and then you were approached basically within the same time period.
Right.
That's, I mean, nothing else could do that but God.
Oh.
Absolutely.
That's why I could hear it in his voice.
I called her. I'm like,
he kept calling me, and I don't remember where I was, but I knew he knew I was somewhere where I couldn't just like pick up the phone and go, hey, what's going on, you know? And so anyway, I was supposed to be picking him up after I was finished with whatever I was doing. And when I finally called him, it was just pouring out of him. He's like, you're not gonna believe this kid. And I was talking, and I got sharing my testimony, and and all of that, you know. So it was really kind of exciting. And literally the couples have just continued to come, and they've stayed with us a really long period. We honestly thought that it would be like you go through the questions with them and then that'd kind of be it. But what we found was they were really responsive. They were hungry. They seemed genuinely hungry. And honestly, I think they just wanted somebody to talk to, like a springboard.
And even after they've gotten married and had a year of marriage, we do a tune-up. So once a month, they call us up, and if they have anything that haven't been resolved, we'll discuss it and just kind of see. Remember how we talked about one of the problems that's going out there is your expectations. People think that your expectations should be this way. Well, it's not. I go, well, it's never that way. I was talking to her earlier about how do you prepare for the storm? You know, when we first got married, we were doing great.
Yeah.
Our jobs were doing wonderful. We had two beautiful kids. Rhonda got diagnosed with this illness where she's in chronic pain, and it totally derailed our lives. She had a law firm. We had to end up getting rid of that. Yeah. I ended up being pretty much the mom, the father.
He became Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom.
He became Mr.
Taking
Mom.
care of her during the whole time. And we never prepared for that. And I never understood how we got through with it. But the Lord has always been faithful, and he was always there with us. He never let us down. We never lost hope. And 15 years, she still deals with chronic pain, but it's definitely controlled. And I think our relationship over the 29 years that we've been married, we just shared with these young couples that you're going to come across storms. You're going to disagree. You're going to fight. It's all how you put it in perspective and have a fundamental foundation in Christ that sets you to be able to understand why is all this happening right now? Why is our world falling apart? And you're going to deal with these difficult times, but it's how you deal with it is what's going to get you through the other end. And I think that's been really what we share in our premarital counseling is how we did it through 29 years of going through rough times. And, we're still here.
Yeah. Not something I can say on here. That's why I sent it in there, just in case it was like, because it's very sensitive to certain things. But I was just wondering if you had tried that.
No, he told me a little bit. I haven't done a whole lot of research in that.
So there are a lot of studies now. I can try and find some and send it to you. But in this particular item, if you were to take it, it helps with things that are chronic. So people that have autoimmune diseases have been seen that reverts it. People with eczema, psoriasis, things like that. People with restless leg syndrome or chronic pain in their legs. My dad had that. He took it and gone.
Wow.
And he tried, and he was struggling for 10 to 15 years of this leg pain that would keep him up at night. And they tried everything, like regular doctor stuff. And then my mom started reading and found this. So I can talk to you more about it, but to get back on track, that's an amazing story. I really think that God called you guys to do this.
Oh,
And it really seems that
question.
way, because why else would people be coming out of the woodworks to
Yes.
you when you're not advertising?
Mm,
So that's very inspirational. And I'm sure that makes you feel quite humbled to be chosen in a way for people to come and get that information from you and to stick by you for so many years. It sounds like I
yeah.
love that you do the 1 month check-ins. So
Mm,
many couples could benefit from that.
yeah.
Well, like
We,
we're
we
saying,
leave it up to them. I mean, we do, and it's been amazing. We were really shocked by that. And I truly feel like the Lord seems to almost be opening the door to make it maybe more of like pure discipleship. Because the other thing that shocked me was how young the couples were that he was sending us. We didn't expect that. And each of the couples, with maybe the exception of one, are really new in their faith.
yeah.
So that's basically almost why they're coming to us. Like they're finally starting to connect the dots that I think I'm supposed to like be living this out in like a specific way. And because of the marriage and all of that kind of stuff and their desire to be married, all of a sudden it seems to be kind of bringing it all together for them. And all of a sudden they're going, how do you cross the threshold into like the next phase of things and that kind. So it really shocked us, and they just seemed to genuinely appreciate the honesty, being straightforward with them, sharing stories from our past. We give them very practical suggestions to try, and they have to agree to it. And if they agree to it, then we try to help hold them accountable to those agreements. And some of them, it's worked out great. And there's things that they still utilize. And so we really did almost kind of shift into kind of like a mentorship. It was almost like they just needed a sounding board.
And what's kind of cool about the whole situation is that we don't judge these kids for anything. These kids are living together. They're having sex. We don't judge them. We don't, scold them. We just share love and just share what does scripture say about it. And a couple of these couples,
They've all
on their own decided to
own.
stop having sex before they got married. They moved into separate bedrooms, and they have thanked us because it's really made their relationship stronger. And they've learned how, one of the things that we talk about is how to have intimacy without having sex.
The difference between intimacy and sex.
And they've tried it, and they share it with their friends, and they're now mentoring their young couples. And I'm like, this is amazing because they're doing it on their own. They want to share the good news, and they want to share how this worked for us. And I think it's totally got God's hands on it. And it's just beautiful to see how these young kids are growing, because it's never been taught. The churches have really failed the young couples as far as the premarital counseling. And I think a lot of them are afraid because they're going to be judged. Oh, we're having sex, or we can't go because we're living together. We don't care about that. We just want you to be real, and talk to them and share the scripture with them. And they figure it out on their own. It's not a right thing to do. And they start to figure it out,
Because I panicked, honestly, because it was like the first couple was the first two couples were kind of an exception. They weren't sexually active. But then it seemed like almost every couple we got after that were. And I was like, Lord, what are you doing? What are we supposed to do about this? It's like, because you kind of feel like they're already in it. You know what I mean? Like they're already living together. They've already made financial commitments, like all this stuff. But he worked it all out. This is what I mean about like the Lord's hand just shows that it's on everything, because each of the couples that were already sexually active, with maybe the exception of one, up front said that. Well, we know that we're living together and we're having sex and we're not supposed to, but and like they offered it. They brought it in. We didn't even have to raise the issue like, hey guys, like what's happening, which was kind of beautiful. And then each of them on their own, like he said, made an independent decision that, you know what, we need to not be doing this anymore. Like we need to, it's like anything. If you're choosing to walk after the Lord, then walk after the Lord.
And it's funny how the women
He'll take care of the rest.
The women are always the first ones to like, I think we should stop. And then the men are
and
like,
the guys are like, what?
Well, they're like, well, does that mean everything? And I'm like, I can't answer the question for you. It's what you feel comfortable with the Lord. Well, I don't know about everything. I'm like, look, you need to work it out between you two. And
you explain that to the Lord and tell him how you justify your
you're
action.
looking for a loophole. And I'm like, that's up to you guys. But I'm not going to judge and say, yes, no, yes, no.
We tell them there's no loopholes,
right.
But like ultimately, who makes the decision? They do.
Right.
Who are they responsible to?
And
the Lord.
It's amazing how they truly, and they're human, they're young kids, but they truly are generally trying to do the right thing. And I think that's what really matters to the Lord is what your heart's telling you and what you're trying to do to make him happy. And I think a lot of them are growing spiritually. And the thing that we keep telling them is that you have to build your relationship on solid ground. You have to have a foundation built with Christ first. Yes. And then all the things are going to come your way, which is going to be good and bad, will be that much better. And I think that's our biggest lesson is build that relationship with Christ. Because a lot of people don't know what that means. And they don't understand that God is just like your father on earth. He wants you to hear your stories. He wants to hear your pain. He wants to hear your doubt. And if you're pissed off, tell him you're pissed off because he's going to tell you differently. And you guys are going to work it out. But at the end of the day, I treat him like he's my father on earth as he is in heaven. And it just works for us. And we just share what works for us and they can take it or leave it. It just depends, what they want to take out of it.
Yeah, I think what I like most is hearing you guys talk about how you counsel or mentor. It really shows that you're giving them the information, you're giving them the tools, but you're not trying to control them. You're allowing the Holy Spirit to do his job and work in their lives.
Yeah, permanent change won't take place. They have to.
It won't.
This is the whole point. It's like if you don't learn how to walk after the Lord and choose to be obedient to him, then it's just all gamemanship. And the Lord already knows that then he knows your heart's not sincere.
Exactly.
And all of us struggle in our own area.
Agree.
The whole point. He will grow you. So if you respond to him and you follow his path and you're obedient to him in that, he'll just continue to open the doors for you and keep moving you forward and increasing your faith. And, we tell them like not to be afraid of the fact that they have conflicts. That worries a lot of young couples. It's like, it's not having problems. That's a problem. It's not resolving the problem. It's not attempting to work through them so that both of you, and that's a big part of the premarital stuff that we do with them is helping them work through that. So if they do find an area where they're in complete disagreement, sometimes it's minor things and they realize that maybe they kind of really don't feel as different as they thought. But other times there's stuff to work out. And then we try to teach them a method, something they can use to help them kind of get down to, well, this is what I need. And it's learning how to be clear with each other. Like, I just feel like the couples become very, females can tend to be this way of like, they don't just say what we tell them, you have to be specific about what you need or what you want. Don't go all the way around the circuit 65 times and then kind of go, well, I'd really just prefer. You have to just say, when you do this, it makes me feel like that. And I think it would be helpful if maybe you just did this. And then the other person has an opportunity to counter and say, well, but that doesn't tell me enough. I don't like, what does that mean? And you know what I'm saying? And then you have to get down to something specific. And so that next time they know that issue comes up, then this is what they're going to attempt. That's what they're agreeing to. And that's what we hold them accountable to. You guys are coming to an agreement and saying, we have a conflict here. We both feel differently. What are we going to do about it? They come up with their agreement. We don't tell them. They have to decide what they think will work for them. And then it's like basically write it down and commit to it. And then we follow up with them to see how it went.
One thing that we recommend that they do is that when you're having a bad day and you're not feeling like you want to communicate or you're distant from your partner, is have a code word. And it was so funny because one of the couples, they use the code word hot chili peppers. And when she comes home, she's a nurse. And when she comes home and she's stressed out and he's can't figure out why she's such a bad mood. She's like, hot chili peppers. Go, oh, okay. And they back off and they kind of, we'll talk about it after dinner or we'll see. Yeah. But it just gives them something to understand the mood that they're in versus the body language. Because most of us have to read body language to realize what is wrong with you today. Yeah. Oh, a bad day. Well, it's been a hot chili pepper. Kind of goes, oh, well, then I'm going to back off and let you kind of unwind before we tackle what's going on. But just little things like that seems to really work. And it just seems to, come up to our heads and we just put it together and they love it. And that's what we use for other couples. Find a code word to tell you when you're pissed off or when this is serious. I don't want you doing something that I don't agree with. This is the code word that they use, and it's
supposed to mean something. So we make sure that they wire it down. Like, okay, when you use the code word, though, then both of you have to know what that means.
Right.
So that means, like, for this person, I take 30 minutes to do this, and this, and then we get back together. Because we always tell them, anytime there's a conflict or an issue or you need to talk, or you've told someone, I can't talk now, we tell them you must give them a specific time. You will discuss it. Don't leave someone in limbo. I don't want to talk about that. Or we'll talk about that later. And you're super generic. And then the person's all stressed out and strung out because they have no idea when you're going to talk about it again. Maybe it'll be an hour. Maybe it'll be 24 hours, 3 days. You can't do that to someone. If there's a genuine issue, we tell them, be specific. I can't deal with this right now. I just can't. We cannot have this conversation today. And you have to learn how to respect that. But then you have to give them something specific. But we will talk on Wednesday at 6 or whatever it is, and be specific. And then you follow through so that the person knows and can be prepared for when it will be discussed more fully. So that someone doesn't, because what ends up happening? You feel like you're getting blown off. You can't help it. If you're upset about something and then they're still not talking to you and they're upset,
well, you're going to piss off your partner even more.
Yeah, it's just going to make them more upset. So, it's things like that.
Do you guys talk about I statements?
Of like what I want? Like I want.
So, my parents went to counseling. I've been to counseling. My sister went to counseling, and we all went to different counselors. But the one thing that they were really specific on, every single one of them said, make sure that when you are having a conflict with your spouse that you use I statements. Oh. So you never say, you did this. Yeah. You say, it may have been unintentional, but I felt this way when this occurred. Like you really focus on how you felt and you try to keep it at I, so that way it doesn't turn into a blame game and them get defensive.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And that's part of this program is actually kind of revolves around that how to resolve the conflict. And so we're real big on the way that we approach it is like they start with that. It's like you're supposed to say, when this happens, or when when it was after work or whatever, and this got said, this is how it made me feel. We tell them to be specific. Like you can't just say you hurt my feelings. It's like,
right. Very specific.
Yes. You have to be specific so that because there's no way to resolve super broad, general things. You have to wire it down. And I say this especially more so to the women, to say, just say it. I feel like women have a tendency to like kind of go all in a big circle and give all this explanation and background and all, like they make all these connections and dots and everything. And the guy's already lost. Like he's already gone. It's like, just say it. If you say, I was really upset with what happened yesterday. And this is what I want to talk about. When you do that kind of stuff, like you have to just be clear, just say it. And then you can provide, or here's the question that I want to ask. Just ask the question. And if the guy wants explanation or background, he'll ask it, that kind of a thing, instead of, and the other thing we've done, and again, it tends to be with the women, but it has been some of the men sometimes as well, to just, if they need to just vent, say that. Because a guy wants to jump in and fix many times. And then they'll give advice. And that's the last thing that the female was looking for. I just needed to vent. I just wanted you to
So
hear me.
I would call that a safe moment. So maybe you can tell your couples that that's another code word that the girl can use, or even the guy. But you say, I need a safe space moment. And all that is for is venting without judgment
Right.
or any kind of argument back and forth. It's
Yes.
literally just let me say what I need to say. And then after the moment's over, we can have a conversation about it. But that moment is literally just for
Yes.
us to vent.
Yes. That's what we tell them, because it's like, this is what we mean when we say you have to be clear. Because a guy, you're going to start to vent, but the guy doesn't know that. The guy's listening for, how do I fix it? And if the guy disagrees with how emotional he may be believing you are to be in response, because like for a guy, he may look at it like, well, yeah, just tell him blah, 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 you know? And the woman's like,
Yeah.
I wasn't even interested in any of that.
I know.
But yeah,
Guys are fixers.
yes. And it's like, but this is part of the dynamic that they really have to learn, because I was like, you both communicate different, you speak different, what you need in a given moment is different, and you have to just learn to be really clear about that. So if this is a day that you just need to vent, make sure that you say that up front. If you're looking for feedback and input, say that right up front. And we tell women to try to watch the flowery stuff. It's like sometimes you need to just say it, because I feel like I hear that a lot from women. Well, I did try to talk to him. And then when I get them to explain, well, what did you actually try to say to your husband? It's all these really kind of like generic phrases. And it's like, but you never just said, I was really hurt.
And most guys are like me.
Right.
We have the attention span of a gnat. So if you don't get to the point quickly enough, we're daydreaming about something totally differently. So
he tells me I get 3 minutes. That's what I got. He's like, you got 3 minutes. If I don't understand in 3 minutes.
And that's one thing we talk a lot about with the guys is communication. Most men don't know how to communicate with their spouses, and they think they do, but they really don't, because we're just to the point. Like she says, you call 911, we're there in 5 minutes, we take care of you in 10 minutes, and we're out to the next call. That's how most of us think. And girls are so different than men, and you got to lay the foundation. You got to put the work in. You got to do a lot more than that's like when we talk about in our book about, having sex. Women are not like men. Is a switch and they're ready to roll. Women, you got to work on it. And I'm like, it takes 24 hours to build that up. You got to like make little subtle hints in the morning to work the way of the night. It's like going fishing. You're not going to catch a fish every single time, but you're going to throw your lure and work it as much as you can. Well, women need to understand, well, are you fishing, or are you expecting something? And he's like, yeah, I am actually.
Always.
I'm always fishing. Most guys are, but
that is, in communication. It is such a huge part of literally just learning how to listen, literally just learning to listen to one another and really hear, which is kind of what I like about the premarital program that we use. Is it really does I think a decent job of at least giving them an alternative way to make sure that you're really being heard. Because that's the other thing that normally drags into larger fights, is you feel like you're not really being heard. And then you never get to any kind of actual resolution because you're so busy, but that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying, or you're not getting it, or whatever it happens to be. So yeah.
So you're teaching code words, specific times when you will discuss things. You're asking that the spouse gives respect and space for that, but the other spouse always follows through. We talked about specific I statements, safe space moments where you can vent. And then for the girls, watch the flowery stuff, be direct, which I think is very important when we talk about the men's attention span. If you get too involved in details, you'll lose them. And it's nothing against them. It's just the capacity of what they can take in for information. They get stuck on a certain subject and may get you wrong if you're not direct.
Yes.
So I think that's important. And then communication, learning to listen and really hear, not just one, through the ear, not listening to respond, listening to understand.
Yes. Which is a very different thing.
Very different. What kind of questions do you think should be asked when we talk about marriage when that's the goal?
When the goal is marriage?
Well,
When
one
the
thing that
goal
we
is
talk a lot.
marriage and they're dating, what would be the questions you would say, hey, make sure you ask these?
One thing that we talk a lot about is about like expectations, and a man's expectation, depending how you were raised, is like, well, I'm going to provide all the food and do all the work. My wife's going to stay home, cook, and raise the kids. Where no, that's not what I want. I want to work too. We both got to raise the kids, and we talk about being a teamwork. There's an offense and a defense.
You're a team.
And you never know how the storm's going to come. But what happens if one gets laid off? Well, the other one's got to cook. I do all the cooking at home because Rhonda, when she was sick, I like to cook, so I would cook all the time. Well, guys don't know how to cook. Well, you better start learning. At the firehouse, we give turns cooking. If you don't know how to cook and you can do hot dogs and hamburgers or tuna sandwiches, hey, that's what you're cooking, but you're going to cook. So we share responsibility and not expect, well, I got home from work and dinner's not ready. Well, you've been home all day. Well, that's expectations. So we talk about expectations, how many kids you want to have, how are you going to raise them, all these different things that a lot of them don't even discuss, which you would think it'd be naturally discussed before you get married, but they don't talk about it. And the premarital counseling, it doesn't exist anymore for a lot of churches. So
yeah, expectations is huge. We ask them about expectations of like basically what, in your head, what makes you a great husband? Why you would say I'm a great husband, or I feel successful, as a spouse, whether you were the male or the female. It's interesting, or even just also the expectations of what is Christ going to mean for your relationship? Are you really on the same page with that? Are you both interested in making the Lord center of your life and center of your relationship? Do you pray together?
That's a huge one, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable, and it takes time to learn how to pray together. But once you accomplish that, it truly makes your relationship blossom, I believe. And it's worked for us. And we share that with the young kids. Pray for dinner, pray for each other. Let each, open up your heart to people. Let them know what it's all about.
Yeah. When we talk about what makes you a great husband, do you ask that specifically to the man, and what makes you a great wife specifically to the woman? Or do you ever ask them individually, to the man, what makes a great wife?
No,
that way they can
both.
put out in their mind.
We've had them answer both. They have to answer both.
Both.
For both of them are answering the same questions. Like if it's me, well, I'm answering for myself what I think, what I would walk away and say, I believe I was a good wife if I accomplished this. And then also for your husband, you would, my husband is a great husband because of what? Like what makes, like you say these things, like what was the one question that we asked about? Oh, why this one? Why you're marrying this one? Why this one over everybody else? And it's interesting because
a lot of times you hear crickets, and that's what kind of scares us when you hear crickets. I don't know why not, but
that's a hard question. People don't think about it.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you kind of almost take it for granted. It's like, again, these virtually the shortest relationship of anyone that had come to us is 2.5 years. Everyone else is like 4+ years. So they've been together for a long period of time, and they're still young. So they're still immature in a lot of ways. They still have a lot of growing up to do. They're not super overly connected to their faith. They're just trying to start to figure it out. And what we're emphasizing to them is your expectations. It's amazing in the conversations. They won't think they have any expectations of what the spouse is. But then once you get talking about issues, all of a sudden that stuff kind of starts to come out. It's like, well, like he said, the food should be on the table. Oh, really?
House should be clean.
Yeah. And what do you mean by clean? And who's going to clean? Like we try to get them to think in terms of a plan. Like what's your initial plan going to be? Who is going to cook?
So a really insightful thing that you guys can do, just as take it as you will, but we went to a Christian counselor, and the first thing she did, she took out a whiteboard and she asked us to write down our family tree, who was divorced, who was married, and then go through, What did the dynamic look like? How did your mom show love to your dad? How did your dad show love to your mom? And we learned so I can give my husband so much grace now because what his family dynamic looked like was not what mine looked like. So the way he perceives that he should love me is so different than the way I expect him to love me based on what I saw when
Yes.
I was young. And
Yes.
if you were to ask me what was my expectation, I really didn't know until she put that together. And I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what my expectation is. So maybe you could do that, get a whiteboard and have them write down their family tree and their dynamics. And that way they can both see where each other came from. And that way they can also give each other grace. Because some people just did not have a great example.
Yes.
So they have to learn what they never saw.
Yes. Yeah, we had one couple that was like that in particular because she had no men in her house. She wasn't
Yeah.
raised with any men in the house. So like some of the things that he would say or some of like, it was like totally foreign. She had zero male influence. So it was like, I don't even know. I mean, she would look at me and she'd be like, I don't even know what that means. You know, she was like, I have
Man.
no
Yeah.
connection to that whatsoever. And we had to talk those things through. That's why the expectations have been just huge because like you were just saying, they don't realize they're buried in there. And so through the questions sometimes that they disagree on, it'll surface up more and you get kind of like little branches and you follow the little branches and you find those other issues. And that's really what the Lord's done. It's kind of amazing because he'll highlight things to us and start to show us dynamics that are happening. And sometimes those are family dynamics that need to be dealt with and some different approaches and some, kind of standing on your own 2 feet kind of stuff that needs to start happening, which is another thing that we talk to them about, to recognize that not all parents adjust well to their kids going from kids into adulthood. And now they're making all their own decisions. And that once you're married, you two are a team. Your number one priority is you and your spouse. It is no longer your family of origin. That doesn't mean it was like, you want good, positive, beautiful, family blended situations, but your priority is to protect your relationship. And so we're always emphasizing with them when there are issues that come up with one or both of your families, you two have to decide, what are we doing about this? And then you put that into action. Don't let yourself get yanked all around. Like, you have to decide and you have to back each other up. And that's not always easy to do, right? Even for the kid to all of a sudden have to be, so to speak, standing up to mom or dad, or it's not about an argument. You're simply asserting yourself. No, dad, I don't want to do that. No, mom, this isn't going to happen. You know what I mean? That's not easy to do when you're moving into your own adulthood and figuring out how to deal with those dynamics as well. And we've had a number of those that were really kind of volatile with family. Not volatile, but there was dynamics there. And so that was a very big thing, and a lot of some things that we had to wrestle through, and each couple handled it a little differently. But we tell them all the time, you have to get used to having hard conversations. There's just no way around it. You cannot shy away from having hard conversations. You cannot run scared and be like, oh, I don't want to say that. You have to. We tell them all the time, you have to express your need. Say it. The other person doesn't have to agree. It's like, but you have to say it. You have to be honest with one another. If they hurt you, or if you were confused by something, or something that your spouse is doing is starting to make you feel very, just like insecure, or like, just whatever. It's like, you have to say those things, so that you can try to work through it. And it's not easy. Like you said, the guys struggle with, I think guys' default position seems to almost be like, well, if I'm supposed to be in charge, then I make all the decisions. I mean, they don't really come out that way.
But it's like a culture thing now.
Feelings in there. It's like they don't, I don't mean to make it sound like they're like super assertive and nothing, we tell
There
them
are those out there, but yeah. Yeah.
Again, it's that you're just figuring it out. Like, you really don't know. They're so young. They're barely walking in their own adulthood. So you're learning to do this with your bosses. I mean, don't you remember like the first job you ever had? You have so many questions. You don't know where the boundaries are, and when can you speak up, and your dynamics in a relationship is exactly the same. You have those same kind of like insecurities, or like, well, am I complaining, or is this like a legit thing? And just learning how to read each other and talk to each other and all of that kind of stuff. It's been interesting, but expectations is a huge thing.
Another thing that we also talk about too, that nobody really plans for this, is that when you're married, who's going to pay the bills? Well, most guys think they're going to do it, but if the female's better with bills, better at accounting, then it's okay to let her pay the bills. You don't have to do everything. So a lot of times they don't even know. A lot of couples that I know, they have a checking account. She has a checking account. They don't have a combined budget. And we teach them, you can't have your little money stashed. You can't have your little money stashed. It's okay to have a savings account if you wanted to save for Christmases or birthdays, but you have a general fund. This is your money, our money. This is our money, not my money. Even if you make more money, it's still our money.
It's our money.
And we write out of the general fund to pay the bills. We talk to them about investments, get involved in certain investment plans early in life, college plans, all these different things. Budgeting, vacation funds, tithing. We talk about it all. And a lot of these kids have no idea, they don't understand this stuff until like, oh, okay, that's how you do it, and we share with them. That's what worked for us. And, we've been doing all this for a long time. So we just share our experience with these young couples, and it seems to be very fruitful, and they really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really think that this was very beneficial, and I think that the work you guys are doing is amazing. So I hope I'm not overstepping. I'm just curious. Do you guys do this on a volunteer basis?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get paid. If that's what you mean. No, we don't get paid.
It is. I was trying to do it in a non-crass way. But like this, people do get paid to do this.
Yeah.
We're so blessed.
The work you guys are doing, you're doing amazing work. The fact that you volunteer your time to really do God's work and what he's called you to do is amazing to me. I really love that. I can see that he's working in your lives. I can see that you thoroughly enjoy doing this. I can see it all over your faces when you're talking. So
it's very humbling. It's very humbling. It truly is.
Yeah.
Because they're basically around the same age as our own kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of treat them in a way like that. We're very direct with them.
Our own children. Yeah. And we're counseling. Like I tell these kids, I talk to you like if you're my own son or daughter, because I want you not to make the mistakes that I did. And we're not perfect. We've done all the mistakes that we talk about. We talk about it because we've been through it. Yes. We've experienced it. And now we know the difference. So we're hoping that they don't make the same mistakes, because God knows we've made plenty in our lifetime.
Yes.
And still do a few.
But we really just try to emphasize that Christ is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't make Christ your number one in your life and in your relationship, everything will be so much worse of a struggle than it needs to be. Yeah. And we just try to get that through to them, and
let God do the rest.
Yeah, and you have to basically let God do the rest. Grab their heart, make the changes, and move them forward in the direction they need to go.
Yeah. So I've been writing notes. Let me save it real quick. Just so I could share at the end, so things didn't get too, like, we got the main points for people who are listening. And I do want to share your links, which I will in the descriptions of each video. And that way people can get up with you. Let's see here. That way people can get up with you if they need counseling. I guess I got to share it a different way. I thought I could share a document. It said no. What else would you guys like to share before we close out?
Well, I mean, I guess we could talk a little, I mean, I don't know, maybe a little bit more about the book. Do you want to, just because I feel what's kind of nice about the approach that we took to the book is we share through the book just how God used premarital counseling in our life, and try to challenge people to think of, like, what was your attitude about dating? What was your viewpoint? You know, did you have things happen in your past that are now being carried forward into your marriage?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what scripture says? Do you know that God says that you're to have sex all the time? Like, that's Christ's standards, to be abundant and prevalent. What about the taboo issues? What can you do? What can't you do? It was amazing.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was amazing to us at, like, how I even had a relative who admitted to me. She's like, yeah, she's like, I am so excited you're writing this book. She's like, you have no idea how much this is needed. She said, I even remember when I first got married, she said, I went to my own pastor and I asked him some of those questions too. I was like, well, she goes, because you're right. She said, basically you spend your whole life, because this is what we say in the book. As a Christian, when you're raised in a Christian family, you spend your whole life basically being told, no sex is bad, don't do it, nothing, you know. And then all of a sudden you get married and it's like, boom, you can have sex. Well, okay, like, what's okay? What's not okay? What, you know, what is there anything God tells us not to do, or like that isn't, you know, is it somehow wrong? Or it's like, again, it's those ideas, those expectations you have in your head, and you both could feel very differently about it. What are your past experiences that could be dramatically impacting what your attitude and viewpoint is about intimacy in general, let alone sexual acts? And, you know, but my relative's point to me was, she's like, I had to go to my own pastor and I had to ask him those things. Is this okay? Is this okay? Is that not allowed? Like, you know, and so she's like, I'm so excited that you're willing to tackle these issues. And we have questions in there, and we have a workbook that goes with it to try to help people answer some of these questions for themselves, and to take a look at scripture. And we have card games in the workbook, and we have like
cool.
we have we call it a bonding bonus, which is like a little activity that they're to do with one another, kind of that matches kind of what the overall topic of the chapter was. And stuff like that, to kind of encourage, again, you have to have some of these conversations. Don't allow what God designed to be this incredible, beautiful bonding thing meant for the unifying of your relationship so that you can last till the very end, right, with this person. You know, don't be afraid of it. You know, go to the Lord, be willing to talk with your spouse, bring some of these up. We've known people who hid very severe sexual trauma from their spouses, and that has devastating outflow from it, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. So, and then kind of how to reset everything. And like, if you're really off kilter, and we just try to encourage them, and, you know, throughout the book of just suggestions and ideas and all kinds of, you know, guidance along the way to encourage them to don't settle for less than what God's intended for you. God wants you to have a fiery, passionate sex life. Go after it. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. You know, this is what it's meant for marriage. It's no longer like off limits. But so we try to, you know, we've had to have that conversation with our couples as well, actually very frank. And we speak with them separately to give, you know, like, I will speak with the female and give her an opportunity to ask anything without the guy being there and hearing anything, so that she can feel safe with me and be okay to ask anything that she might want to ask. And then we come together afterwards and, you know, take it from there. Just
and the guys will ask me, you know, well, what's allowed? I'm like, well, you got to slow down, Tiger. You don't want to, you know, you don't want to jump the gun too soon. But yeah, it's really been great as far as getting their opinions and sharing our opinions with them. And it's going to be a great book. We're looking forward to it. We're also scared.
I have an idea for your next book.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
This is pretty important. I actually have an episode coming up about the purity culture and how it can be damaging in a way. Not that you shouldn't remain pure. That is not what I mean.
Right.
It's the way we go about it, how we kind of use a scare tactic. And it makes it where, especially the women, get into the marriage. Let's say they saved themselves until marriage and they've been told all their life,
Yes.
basically, sex is bad.
Yes, that's
And
my point.
you're scared. So you go into the marriage and you're not as open. You're not as willing to give yourself to your spouse fully. So I think that a really good book to write, because there's plenty out there that are not Christian based, is a Christian based book for women that are waiting. Maybe from 16 and up would be a good age range for the book.
Hmm.
But to discuss sex and why it was made and created, how beautiful it really is, but why we want to wait. Not scare tactics, just telling
Yes.
them how beautiful it is and what God has waiting for them if they are able to hold out.
Well, that's why we discuss in the book about, like, we lay the scriptures out to say, do you listen to this scripture? Like, where in here
Yeah.
do you get the idea that, but this is what I mean, your expectations. So when you spend your whole life being told no sex, no sex, no sex, no sex, all of a sudden sex is on the table, you don't know what to do with that. You have this natural, like,
defense
mechanism almost of, like, you know, that there has to be boundaries somewhere. It's like, well, but you talk about those things, but we do, and so we do address that in the book. And that's what the questions are for, is to challenge them to say, maybe recognize that some of the issues that you're having is because you haven't thought some of these through. You haven't read what scripture says. And so we lay it out in there, and we challenge them throughout the book to say, this is what the scripture says. So where do these ideas come from? What is your real fear? Especially in the taboo, in the taboo chapter, we do that. You hear something like that. Well, what makes it taboo? What does God tell us is totally off limits for between a husband and wife?
And I think what you're doing in those, I think what you're doing in the book is very relevant and very good. But think about how easy it is to start the conversation with somebody that is new to the issue, rather than trying to reform someone that already has it in their mind of how it is. Does that make sense?
Right. I see what you're saying.
Because who you're going for are the adults, which they need it. I'm not gonna lie. But if God called you, maybe pray on it and see if maybe you could frame a book in such a way that it helped young women understand that they may be receiving this feedback from their church or from whoever from the outside, but this is the realities of sex.
Yes.
You should not feel like it is a dirty thing, and you should not feel like you have to be on guard with your husband once you get there. The beauty
shaming your body and covering up your body, and
right.
Yes.
That way you're framing their minds instead of trying to reframe their minds.
Right.
I don't know, just a thought. It was just an idea off the top of my head. But if I had found a book that was really good at explaining these things to my daughters, I would get it for my daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I feel that way. I think that they should embrace their sexuality once it's time.
Yes. To not be afraid of it. And that's what we try to unpack in it.
Right.
It's like, you don't know where people are at. And as couples, like I said, and what's amazing is, like, because as teens, there's so much pressure to have sex. It's almost expected. So you have sex and then you get married and all of a sudden you're never having sex. Well, again, because to me, it came down to, like, a fundamental understanding of what sex is all about. So when you know what I mean? And it's and it becomes a weapon. And we talk about how sex can become a weapon in a relationship, and how dangerous that can be, and how damaging that is to the relationship. And those issues must be dealt with, because ultimately you're supposed to be trusting the Lord to help you work through these things and with each other, so it's challenging. It is challenging, but we were really grateful that the Lord led us to write this book, because we, like I said, we just had couple after couple after couple after couple that and it's like, and you know that they were very active before they got married, and it's just totally, even the living together stuff, you know, we try to address that, and that it just skews everything, you know, it just skews
It does.
everything. So
Well, let me share my screen so we can just go over share screen. Let's see, this one. This is my email. Y'all don't need to see that. Let me close that. I have so many emails, it's not even funny. Word document. Well,
not gonna let you do it.
yeah, I don't know if it will. Well, I'll just read them off. So I wanted to try and share it so that way it was on screen and people could read along. Okay. We talked about code word, right?
Yes.
Hot chili
So we
pepper.
spoke on code word. Huh?
Hot chili pepper.
Chili pepper, red hot shed chili pepper. I like that. I would use that because that's not a normal one. But then I'd probably start singing red hot chili pepper songs. Specific time when you will discuss things. Never leave things just up in the air just because it's not the right time or you don't feel like it. Always set a time and a space for when you will follow through. And then for the spouse that is being given that, not ultimatum, but that option of, hey, I need space, I need time, make sure you give the respect and space, and trust that your spouse will follow through on the time and date that they gave. Specific I statements, safe space moments. So that's where you can vent and your spouse won't try and fix the problem. Women, watch the flowery stuff, be direct. It's very important you're direct so your information doesn't get lost in translation.
Yes.
Communication, learning to understand, not just hear. So learning to listen and really hear.
Yes.
Expectations need to be discussed. We talked about a lot of these expectations. Give me just a second, sorry. My son opened the door and then flushed the toilet in the other room. So learning to listen. Oh, expectations. We talked about a lot of these expectations. I thought they were really good because this is an all-encompassing kind of thing because there's so many different expectations.
Yes.
So teamwork, we talked about that you always need to be a team. Talk about how many kids you want to have, how you will raise them, what makes you a great husband or wife, and what do you think is a great husband or wife? What is Christ going to mean for your relationship? Do you pray together? And then a big one that I'm guessing you have a hard time getting an answer for, why this one person over all the others? But it's such an important question to have an answer to. Preparing to be a team and no longer cleaving to your parents.
Yes.
The realization that once you are one and you no longer are with your parents, but you still respect them.
Yes.
Now you have a different unit and a priority of your relationship to protect.
Yes.
And then what we are doing about this situation and ensuring that you put it into action when things come up. And get used to having hard conversations, express your needs. And who is going to manage the money? Pretty important.
Yeah.
Knowing that it should be our money, not just his and hers.
Correct.
Now that you're one, why would you split money? And then budgeting, vacation funds, tithing, investing. That's all very important and definitely not things that we're taught in school.
No.
So if anybody is engaged or thinking about marrying or in a relationship and think they could benefit, their links will be in our descriptions of all of our videos and our audios clips. So you are able to reach out to them directly, and I'm sure they would love to be of help. All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to share before we close out?
Anything else?
I would just thank you for the opportunity
Yeah.
and see where God takes it.
Now we're excited.
Yeah,
Excited to see
absolutely.
what he's going to do.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you to our listeners, and you guys have a wonderful day.
You too.